Today's coaster review is for Joker's Jinx, which is the premier ride spaghetti bowl roller coaster at Six Flags America in Upper Marlboro, Maryland. In this video, I'll be reviewing this coaster based off of 9 different categories, and that final category is an overall score, and that will come at the end of the video. Getting started, the first category is the duration of the ride, and Joker's Jinx is about 1 minute 15 seconds long. So it's getting a 5. That's pretty average for a roller coaster. And there's a lot of elements throughout this ride. It actually packs in quite a few maneuvers for 1 minute and 15 seconds long. Joker's Jinx reaches a maximum speed of 60 miles per hour, and that is achieved at the launch. And so this coaster will be getting a 6. Not a bad speed at all. Now let's talk how tall this coaster is. And this coaster is very compact. It's not about the height. The highest point is when it goes through that first Cobra roll right after that launch, and it's about 79 feet tall. This coaster is not about the height at all, so it's getting a 3. Now let's talk how smooth the coaster is. And this coaster is pretty smooth. The track type is smooth. If you're getting jostled around, it's because of the transition between elements. It's not because the track type is rough. So it's getting a 7 out of 10. There are some elements that this coaster might jerk you into, but overall it's pretty good. Next up is the drop, and this coaster doesn't really have a drop. Like I said, this is the same about the height. It's not about the height or the drop, so it's getting a 1. Next up is intensity, and the most intense part of this coaster is definitely that launch. And it's a very fun launch too. You're picking up some good G's on this coaster, so it's getting a 7. And for the inversions category, this coaster will also be getting another 7. There are 4 inversions on this coaster. The first one is a Cobra roll, which is 2 inversions. Then it goes into a sidewinder, and finally it ends with a corkscrew. And normally I'm not big on Cobra rolls, but I like it on this coaster because it's very drawn out. It's a pretty big Cobra roll. And the fact that these inversions are wound into this massive layout where there's track flying everywhere, I really like that about it. So that's why it's getting a 7. And the final category before the overall score is the theming. Joker's Jinx is getting a 5, and that's because there's some theming present. The green and purple is obviously a reference to the Joker, and there's some theming in the station. It's very loose theming, but there really isn't any theming during the ride, so that's why it's getting that 5. But it's certainly better than no theming at all. So now it's time for an overall score. Joker's Jinx is getting a 6.5. This is a fun coaster. I think what separates this roller coaster from other Premier Ride Spaghetti Bowl coasters, particularly Flight of Fear, is that this coaster is better than them because the mid-course brake run doesn't take the ride to a full stop like Flight of Fear does. That's why I prefer Joker's Jinx over the Flight of Fear coasters at Kings Island and Kings Dominion. If you're not a fan of drops, then you'll like this coaster because there aren't really any on them. Mainly has bank turns and a couple of inversions. But I think really the big scare factor that will cause some GP not to ride it is the fact that you feel like you're gonna hit the supports and the other track because it goes so close to them. But that's part of the element to this ride. That's what makes these coasters fun. It adds an extra near miss factor to them that most coasters don't have.